So in k-means clustering, first we need to select the random. I mean, we need to select based on the number of k value. Based on the k value, we need to select k number of um, data objects as initial means. And after selection of the random mean, then we need to uh, form the clusters based on the distance between the mean and the remaining data objects that we have already experimented in the last class, right? And after forming clusters, again we need to regenerate the mean based on the cluster elements. So with the new means, once the means are formed, again we need to reform the clusters. And this process is repeated until there is no change in the generated clusters or there is no change in the generated mean values. Like this way, we can go with the k-means. And the second method under partitional clustering is the k-medoids. So why we need to go for the k-medoids means k-means algorithm, k-means method is a little sensitive to outliers. Why? Because if at all in a particular group, if at all you're having, suppose consider consider the variable as age, consider the age variable, and all the mostly out of 100 elements, 98 elements, that 98 people having the 98 people are in the age group of 1 to 30, for example, whereas one people or customer or whatever, 98 customers are in the age group of some 10 to 30, for example. Unfortunately, the data is like that, and only two people are or two customers of an store are having the age group of consisting of age group of 60 years and 75 years, for example. So those two values are considered as outliers because they deviate the clusters. If at all you want to calculate the mean of a cluster, even with the presence of at least one outlier, the total mean may vary, which may disrupt the actual cluster. So actually, those two values, 65 and 70 is there now. Those two values are actually considered as outliers. So because of the presence of that outlier, the shape of the cluster differs, which gradually changes the entire output of the clustering process. So because of this reason, we are not going with the mean of the cluster. So that's why we are moving to the k-medoids. So this is also similar to the k-means, but instead of means, we are considering k-medoids, and there is some criteria to select the representative object in the iterations. And in the last class, we have already I have provided the basic idea for the k-medoids, right? So in case of k-medoids, we need to randomly select the representative object. Those are called as actually medoids. So in case of k-medoids, we need to randomly select the representative objects. Representative objects we need to select. Let me share the whiteboard and it will be better. My voice is clear, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So here initially we need to select some k number, for example, k is equal to 2. If this is the case, we need to select some k number of representative objects. Out of all the data elements, we need to select, in this case, since k is equal to 2, we need to select k representative objects. And based on the distance between these representative objects and the remaining elements, we need to form the clusters as done for the case of k-means. Just like k-means, here also we need to form the cluster. Till this step, there is no change between the k-means and the k-medoid algorithm. So after that, first, before going for the next iteration, we need to find the cost of the generated cluster. So this cluster 1 cost is there and cluster 2 cost is there. So this cost in the first iteration can be obtained from the cost of cluster 1 and the cost of cluster 2. Some procedure is there to calculate the cost, and based on that, we need to calculate the total cost for this for the generation of the cluster. So after forming the clusters, in the next iteration, since here, let's say this is A and this is B. These are the actually medoids we have selected randomly, right? So in the next iteration, we need to randomly take two other representative objects as medoids. So here I can say, I can take this point. Here is a point, right? I can take this point, and here I can take this point. And I'm assuming that some CD is there. Let's say this is C and this is D. And I'm assuming that these are my new representative points. So here is some doubt whether the selected representative points are really the representative point or not, or it improves the efficiency of the clustering process in the next iteration or not. Because since we are moving from one iteration to another iteration means we need to increase the efficiency of the clustering process, or we need to enhance the generated clusters at least a little. But we don't want our clusters to the performance of our clusters to fall down. So for that, we need to check whether these selected representative clusters are better than the previous or not. So for this, what we need to do? For this, blindly, you can reshape the clusters first. So to check whether these two new representative objects are good or not, to check that, first we need to blindly reshape the clusters based on these two new representative objects. So here I'm going to reshape these two clusters based on these two representative points. For example, this is my new cluster. For example, this is the shape of my new cluster. The data points position is same. The position of the data points is not changed. But based on these two new representative clusters, the shape of the cluster is changed. And also the object in cluster initially in the first iteration, the particular object, if at all the particular object in cluster 1, it may or may not be belonging to the cluster 1 in the next iteration. It may be fall under cluster 2 also. Similarly, like this, based on the distance between the new representative objects and new representative object and the remaining data objects, all the data objects are reassigned to both the clusters. So here again we need to calculate the cost. Again here we need to calculate the cost. So here cost of the clustering process is equal to cost of cluster 1 plus cost of cluster 2. And now it's time to, before going for the third iteration, it's time to decide whether these new representative objects, selection of these new representative objects is good or not. We are taking a good move or bad move. That we need to decide. If at all it is a good move, there is no problem, we can proceed. If at all it is a bad move, we need to backtrack. So here, how to decide whether these two, this step is a good step or not. So here we need to calculate total cost. Total cost we need to calculate. So total cost is equal to cost 2 minus cost 1. So that should be negative. If at all, this should be negative. This move is a good move. Good move in the sense you can proceed with this new representative objects to the next iteration. That means the clusters which are formed as a second iteration are the something improved clusters than the clusters formed in the prior iteration. So you can proceed with this new representative objects and you can follow up the next task. If at all it gives a positive value, this difference, if at all it gives a positive value, the step which you have taken is not a good step. You can continue with the previous representatives. That means these are not good selection of representatives. If at all you get negative here, this is not a good selection. Then what to do? We need to again select another representative other than A and B because those are initial representatives, right? So here we need to again backtrack, and instead of the C and D, we need to select another two or another representative for a particular cluster. We need to select another representative. And again, based on that representative, again you need to reshape the cluster, reassign the data points, and again we need to check the cost. And you need to generate the total cost. If at all it is negative, the total cost is negative, you can proceed with this new representative points. If at all it is positive, you can again come back and again select another non-representative object as the new representative object. So in this way, in a trial and error method, error fashion, we need to select the perfect representative point for the next iteration. That means for the since these are the clusters generated in the first iteration. If suppose in the next iteration we got the positive, these clusters are not considered. These generated clusters are not considered. So we need to generate the second level of clusters. So for that, this process is repeated. We need to backtrack and we need to select another non-representative object and we need to go with that until you find a good representative object. So once, if at all you get the negative value, which means that this, for example, you consider E, this is E and this is F. Third time when you select the representative object, those are E and F. So if at all you get the negative value here, which means that this is a good move. So then you can reshape that means the clusters which are generated by using this E and F representative points are the considered, I mean, acceptable clusters. So after that, again, you need to go for the next level. So with the generated clusters, so if at all you get the negative value here, the clusters generated at that stage should be considered again. So with that generated cluster, again you need to again change the representative object. So this process repeats. You need to select the representative object. You need to check whether it is correct move or not. If at all that is the correct move, you need to reshape the clusters. And once you reshape the cluster, again you need to select the representative object. And again you need to check whether that is a good move or not. If at all it is a bad move, that is a different case. If at all it is a bad move, you need to go back and you need to take another representative until it will be until you can have a good move. So after selecting a good representative object, you need to reshape the cluster. After reshaping the cluster, you need to select the good representative object. After selecting the good representative, just like k-means, you need to identify the mean value. After identifying the mean value, reshaping the cluster. After clusters are reshaped, again you need to calculate the mean value. And again, once the mean value is calculated, again based on that you need to reshape the cluster. That process repeats until there is no change in the generated clusters. Here also the process is same. You need to take the initial random representative value. Based on that, you need to read the cluster. You need to form the clusters initially actually. So once the clusters are formed, you need to select the good representative object or good representative or good midoid you need to select. What is meant by good here? Good in the sense that can be estimated with this process. Whether the representative object is good or not, you need to estimate. You need to go with this process. So within this process, you may need to backtrack or you may need to go for different levels. That is a different case. So you need to select the good representative object. After selecting the good representative object, you need to reshape the cluster. So after forming the new cluster, you need to again randomly select the good representative object. And this process is repeated until there is no change in the generated clusters. So in this way, you can avoid damage causing by outliers, avoid loss causing by outliers. This is about the k-medoids method. Let me share the PPT. So in k-medoids, here we need to know about this partitioning around medoids. This was one of the first k-medoid algorithm introduced. This was the first k-medoid algorithm. And here is the cost function. Based on this, we can estimate the cost. So I will take an example so that you can get better about this k-medoids. So here, if you observe here, if the total cost is negative, then the swapping is allowed. That means the new representative is considered. If the total cost is positive, then we need to go with the previous representative object only. That means nothing is changed. If at all, it is positive. And here you have 4 cases regarding the exchange of data elements during the, that means reshaping of the data elements in the reshaping of the clusters and position of the data element based on the selected representative object. Here we have 4 cases. All these cases are very familiar to you, but here they have a representation to understand much better. For example, here, for suppose there are 2 clusters you have, and here is a representative object. For example, consider this is a representative object. Usually the representative object is indicated with ij. In k-medoids, the representative object is indicated with ij. And for another cluster, we are talking about this cluster particularly. We are talking about the first cluster. And we may have more than one cluster. Let us say this is ij. Sorry, oi. Let us say this is oi. This is oj. So here, let's wait for a second. So here you have some other data objects of a cluster, right? So like this, you have some number of clusters. I'm taking 2 clusters. So what is ij here? What is ij? What is oj and what is oi? Anybody? What is oj? Representative object. That means midoid of C1. Oi is the midoid of C2. Midoid or representative, both are same. Oj is the midoid of C1. Oi is the midoid of C2. And now we are particularly talking about C1. So here I am selecting some other representative object in C1. So I am selecting this one. I am selecting this one as another representative object, and I call it as O for O random. That means randomly I have selected this particular O as new representative object. As new representative object, I have selected O in this example. So here I need to know about the distribution of a particular object among the clusters. Suppose this is a data point exists, and let us say this is P. Here P is a data point. So now based on OR, we need to reshape the clusters. Now these 4 cases are about the reshaping of the clusters. Here we have 4 cases, right? Case A, case B, case C, and case D. These are all regarding the deals with the reshaping of the or repositioning of a particular data object. Whenever there is a selection of new randomly new midoid takes place. So here, did you find the object P here? Ma, did you get my voice?
Yes, ma'am.
So did you find object P here?
Yes, ma'am.
So here P is a general object, one of the objects present in the cluster, and OJ is the already selected midoid, and OR is the newly selected midoid. Now we need to first evaluate whether this is a good move or not. That is a different case. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking how to repositioning a particular object of a cluster whenever there is a change of midoid. So let us consider P here. How to decide whether P has to P should belong to the cluster 1 or cluster 2 or what? How to decide that? So for this, here are 3 cases. So if you consider the first case, here in the first case, P is presently belongs to OJ. P is presently belongs to OJ. That means here P is presently belongs to OJ. That means in the cluster 1 we are having P, right? And after reshaping the cluster, that means after changing the representative value, P is nearer to OI. If suppose P is nearer to OI, then we need to assign P to the cluster 2 instead of cluster 1. So what they are telling, so this all you already know. You already know about this. I'm just explaining the things. So I thought first I need to go for an example, and later I came back and I explained this. It will be better for you. So let me go for an example. So here is an algorithm. This is already we have discussed in last class. The same process it explains. That means arbitrarily we need to choose k objects in D as initial representative objects and assign each remaining objects to the cluster. That means we need to form the clusters, right, based on the nearest representative object. And we need to randomly select the non-representative object, which is known to be O random. And we need to compute the total cost. If at all it is negative, then swapping is allowed. Otherwise, no step is considered here. And this should be repeated until no change in the generated cluster. This is the basic algorithm for the k-metoids. Let us take an example. Consider the data points. How many data points are there here? How many data points are there? Count change.
10, ma'am.
So here 10 data points are there. And now we need to we need to apply k-metoids for this data. So first, what is the first step? What is the first step?
Midouts ni select చేసుకోవాలి, ma'am.
So randomly we need to select based on the k value. So first we need to decide k, and based on the k value we need to select the k number of midouts. So after that, based on that midouts, we need to form the clusters. So here we have selected, since in this example k is equal to 2, so we have selected so for the time constraint, I'm not going to explain the calculations and all. I'm just directly giving the result here. So here 8, 5 and 4, 5 are the two midouts we have selected. Since the k value is equal to 2 for this example, and we have selected two midouts 8, 5 and 7, 5. 4, 5. So based on that, what we have done here, we need to calculate the distance between each object and the midouts. So what is this first column and what is the second column indicate? We have a distance formula, right? We can go for Euclidean or Manhattan, whatever. So here they have considered Manhattan distance. So what is the first column and what is the second column? First column indicate the distance between each and every point with the first midouts. Okay. Second column indicates the distance between each and every point with the second midouts 4, 5. Did you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Or you can try randomly. You can try this 7, 3. What is the distance between 7, 3 and 8, 5? 7, 3 and 8, 5. X1 minus X2 plus Y1 minus Y2. That is the formula.
3, ma'am.
So 7 minus 8 plus 5 minus 3. 5 minus 3 or 3 minus 5. Mod is there, right? Like this here also, this second column indicates the distance between each and every point with the 4, 5. Now from these distances, what we need to decide here? We need to decide which point belongs to which cluster. So just tell me, I just note down here. This 8, 7 object, that means the first object belongs to which cluster? Cluster 1.
C1, ma'am.
So here it belongs to cluster 1, and next C7.
C2, ma'am.
I need response from remaining students also. Attendance చెప్పేటప్పుడు ఒకటే కాదు, క్లాస్ చెప్పేటప్పుడు కూడా రెస్పాండ్ అవ్వండి. Where is the third object?
C2, ma'am.
Again C2. Next.
C1, ma'am.
Okay. చెప్పండి ఫాస్ట్ గా.
C1. And then C2.
Yes.
C1. C1.
Yes.
1, ma'am. 1 and 2, ma'am.
And 2. So
yes, ma'am.
This is based on
distance, ma'am. Distance between.
So here we need to compare these two distances. Since here 2 is lesser than 6, which means that 8, 7 is more nearer to 8, 5 than 4, 5. Since the 8, 7 is more nearer to this midouts, this representative, you can assign this to cluster 1, since this is cluster 1 and this is cluster 2. So like this, you can form the cluster first. This is same as the k-means, right? So after that, so these are the generated clusters. After that, what we need to do? After forming the cluster, we need to, before going for the next iteration, we need to find the cost of the clustering process. We need to find out the cost. For this, we need to add the cost of cluster 1 plus cost of cluster 2 we need to add. So for finding the cost of cluster 1, we need to add all the distances in cluster 1. So in cluster 1, you can have 2 plus, so this belongs to cluster 1, right? And this also belongs to cluster 1. This distance belongs to cluster 1. This is also right. And next, this one. Anything is left? So all the highlighted values or highlighted distances are belonging to the cluster 1. We need to add all those first. 3 plus 0 is there, right? 1 plus 1, right? So this is all the cost of, this is the cost of cluster 1. And what is the cost of cluster 2?
3 plus
Yes, 3 plus
4 plus
4 plus
4 plus
4 plus
0, ma'am.
0. So you need to add these two. What is the total value we have?
8, ma'am.
8.
Yes, ma'am. 8. Second cluster, ma'am.
Okay. Total value. 8,
Second
10.
cluster ki 8, ma'am.
Okay.
11.
First cluster ki 9, ma'am. Total 17, ma'am.
17. Then ఇంకొకసారి చెక్ చేయండి. 4, 8, 9. 9 plus 8. 2 belongs to cluster 1. And next 3 in cluster 2. We missed this, right? I think we have missed this.
Ma'am, cluster 1 lo
Here is 3. Here is 3.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, total cost is 20. Did you get
Ah,
this?
yes. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So total cost is 20. So here, with this selected middoids, what are the middoids? 8, 5 and 4, 5. So with this selected middoids, we can have some generated clusters and we can have cost of 20. And what is the next move? What is the next move?
Shuffle చేస్తాం కదా, ma'am.
Not shuffling. We need to select the new representative. Yeah, new middoids we need to select. So let's just for example, let's keep cluster 2 as it is, and let's take a new representative for cluster 1 for your understanding only. So these are the cluster elements in the particular cluster, right? So this is the cost you got 20. So let us say we just keep the second representative object as it is. Let's only concentrate on cluster 1 for your understanding purpose. Actually, we need to change every representative point. So here I am taking 8, 4. Instead of previously we have taken 8, 5, right? So instead of 8, 5, I am taking this 8, 4 as a new representative. So next, what is the next task? Instead of 8, 5, I am taking 8, 4 as a new representative for the cluster 1. So I am not changing cluster 2. So what is the next task?
Distance find out చేస్తాం, ma'am.
Distance between 8, 4 and all the remaining elements we need to calculate. And based on the distance, we need to reassign the elements again. So here, these are the obtained distances. Okay, let's do the same process again. So coming to this first element 8, 7, it belongs to
C1, ma'am.
C1, cluster 1. Similarly, the second element belongs to cluster 2. So like this, you can proceed. You can proceed based on the distances. So how you reallocate this? How you reallocate this? Suppose if you consider this 8, 7, first we need to previously it belongs to cluster 1 only, right? If you observe the previous slide, this 8, 7 belongs to cluster 1 only. That means if you are having 2 clusters and these are the new representative objects. This is the new representative object O random, and here is a P. Here is your P. Since initially P is in cluster 1 only. What checking now? Again, the distance between the P and the O random we need to check. Distance between P and O random we need to check, and based on this, if it is still belongs to that means closest to O random than OI. This is some other cluster and this is some other midoid. If P is closest to O random than OI, we can keep P in cluster 1 only, right? If at all P is closest to OI than O random, what we need to do? You have already go through this. You have already go through this. Pictorially, I'm asking because you need to mention these 4 cases in your exam. You need to mention these 4 cases in your exam. These 4 cases are belonging to this stage actually. So here P is the one of the object, like for example 8, 7, one of the object. O random is the new representative object. In this case 8, 4, right? OI is the representative object of another cluster. So here, if P is initially belongs to C1 and it is after reshaping the clusters, it is still closer to O random than OI, then we can keep P in cluster C1 only, right? Right or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. If at all, after reshaping, P is closest to OI. After reshaping, P is closest to OI. Because once you reshape the clusters, the values are changed. These values may change, right or not? That means the each point may belong to some other cluster also based on the distance value. So if at all based on the distance value, P is closer to OI, then what to do? We need to P to this OI. That means we need to assign P to this cluster 2. That is what here they have mentioned. So in this case, reassignment is done. Reassigned. So if at all it is closer to OI, we need to reassign. We need to reassign it. And what is the next case? What is the next case? If at all, here, let me come back. So like this, we have 4 cases. If at all P initially belongs to this OJ, and after reassigning, it is closest to OI, we need to reassign P. So here is a second case. In the second case, reassign to O random. When we need to reassign? Initially P belongs to OJ, and after reassignment, or that means after reshaping the clusters, it is closer to O random. Then that means that P now belongs to O random. P now belongs to O random. Similarly, here no change. When we can observe this? Actually, this is our example. This is our particular example we have considered. If initially P belongs to particular cluster 2, and after reshaping also it belongs to, that means it is closest to OI also, OI only. then there is no change. And here is the last case, reassign to O random. If at all P is initially belongs to Y, this solid line indicates before swapping. Initially belongs to which midoid. This is indicated by the solid line. This dashed line indicates after swapping. So if at all P initially belongs to Y in the sense second cluster, and after reshaping, if it is belongs to in the sense closest to, if it is closest to O random, then it can be reassigned to O random. So these 4 cases you already know that, but for the sake of representation, they have given some pictures, and you can go through all the pictures. It can be better. So here what we have done, we need to calculate the distance between each object and each new representative. Each object and the new representative. Between those two, we need to calculate the distance. And based on the distances, you need to again reassign the data objects to the clusters C1 and C2. You don't bother about the particular data point fall in which cluster, that particular data point in the same cluster, just like previous. That you no need to bother. Generally, during the process of reassignment, the position of the data points may change. Maybe in the previous iteration, the particular the data point belongs to one cluster. After reshaping the clusters, it maybe belongs to the other cluster. You don't bother about that. So your task is to randomly select some other new representative. You have already done that. That is 8,4. And after selecting the new representative, you need to reshape the clusters by reassigning the data points. You already did this, right? So here, these are all the new assignments. So this is your new clusters formed. You don't bother whether this is same as previous or not. And what now we need to do? We need to again calculate the cost of the forming these clusters in the second iteration with the new representative objects. So again, how to calculate the cost? Cost of C1 plus cost of C2. Cost of C2 we already know because there is no change in C2. What is cost of C2? I think 8 plus 3, 11. So for that you need to add cost of C1. So after that you will get 22. By adding that you will get 22. So next what to do? You need to calculate the total cost. So what is the total cost?
C2 minus C1, ma'am.
Yes. So 22 minus 20, which is 2, which is positive or negative?
Positive, ma'am.
Which is positive. So if the total cost is positive, what is the what it means? If the total cost is positive,
Bad moves.
positive in the sense that is a bad move. That means you need to backtrack and you need to select again another representative. That means yes, midoid. Instead of 8,4, we need to backtrack again. That means backtracking in the sense we no need to consider these generated distances and this generated new clusters. You no need to consider. Again, you need to go back to this step, and instead of 8,4, let's randomly select some other. Let's say 3,7. Randomly select some other and do the process. Do the same process. What is the process? Again, calculating the distances and reshaping the clusters and going with all those stuff. So like this, you can perform the k-midoid clustering. So with this, we are having 2 methods under partitional clustering. Let's come to the hierarchical clustering methods. So as we already have a basic idea regarding hierarchical clustering methods. So hierarchical methods creates a hierarchical decomposition of some set of data elements. So here you have 2 approaches, agglomerative, which is also called bottom up, and divisive, which is also called top down. This we already have a brief idea in the previous class. So during the bottom up approach, each individual object, let's say if you are having 100 objects, each object is treated as a separate cluster initially. Each object is treated as a separate cluster, and we need to repeat the process some number of times, and gradually at each iteration some merging process takes place. Some merging process takes place in each iteration based on certain criteria, where merging process in the sense the similar clusters, if suppose this is level 1, in the level 2 the similar clusters in level 1 should be merged to form a new big cluster, little big cluster, right? Similarly, in level 3, some clusters in the down levels, lower levels, can be merged based on the similarities exist among them and to form the new big cluster. And this process should be repeated until you get the single cluster or until certain stopping criteria is satisfied. Similarly, here bottom up approach in the sense we need to start with a single cluster. That means we need to club all the data points and we need to treat all the data points as a single cluster. And we need to split. Splitting is takes place in case of divisive approach. We need to split the cluster into some different number of clusters gradually. That means in level 1 we are having only one cluster, and in level 2 you may have 2-3 clusters. That means that particular single cluster is split into 2 or more clusters, and in level 3 you may have some 5-6 clusters. So that is also based on some dissimilarity. That means the data points which are more dissimilar, they can be split into different clusters. So in this way, you are having divisive approach of forming the clusters, and that process repeats until each data object belongs to individual clusters or certain criteria satisfies. So here Agnes is an agglomerative approach, algorithm under agglomerative approach, and Diana is a method or algorithm under divisive approach. So let's consider an example. Consider a data set of 5 objects A, B, C, D, E. So here this particular direction from left to right indicates the agglomerative approach, Agnes approach, whereas the direction from right to left indicates the Diana divisive approach. So here, as I said earlier, in agglomerative approach, we need to start with, since we have only 5 data points, we need to start with each and every, we need to start by imagining each and every data point as an individual cluster. We need to imagine like that. And that is in step 1, initial step in the sense, let's say it is step 0. And in the next step, based on certain similarity in the sense, here we usually use it to go for Euclidean distance measure. You need to calculate the Euclidean distance among the data objects, and based on that, the ones which are most similar can be merged in the next stage. That means from this one can able to understand that the Euclidean distance between A and B is less compared to remaining other. So that's why I can club A, B, and I can form the new cluster here. That means here you have cluster 1, here you have cluster 2, cluster 3 you have, cluster 4 and cluster 5, and this is my cluster 6 actually. So here I can form the new cluster. And after that, in the next stage, I observe that there is among D and E, there is a very less Euclidean distance. So I can form this cluster 7. And in the next step, I can analyze from the distance calculations that the objects C, that means the cluster C and cluster D are close together. That means I need to calculate the Euclidean distance between cluster C and cluster D. Since those two are close together, I can club those two and form the next cluster. Similarly, I can form the clusters as based on certain criterion. Similarly, in Diana approach also, initially I need to start with a big cluster. And based on here also, you can apply Euclidean distance, and the data objects which are very far can be divided. Since the data objects A, B and C, D are very far to each other, they can be split into 2 different clusters. The same procedure also, here also the same procedure is repeated, and the clusters are split into some small clusters, and in this way you can proceed with the divisive approach. So in this way you can form clusters using agglomerative and divisive approach. So if you observe here, if at all you are having 2 clusters, if at all you are having 2 data points, you can easily find the distance between the data points. You have the formulas. Then if you have 2 clusters, how to find the distance between the clusters? So because each cluster consisting of many number of points. So which particular point we need to select means we need to select the objects of the clusters which are closest to each other. Which are closest to each other. In case of Agnes, that means we're having more number of objects in cluster 1 and more number of objects in cluster 2. Generally, let's wait. Generally, these data objects may be closest to each other. So you can calculate the distance between these two clusters. Like this, you can calculate because these two particular data objects are belonging to those areas are closest compared to the other, closest to each other. So finally, you need to form the next level. You need to go to the next level only based on one pair, only based on one pair, not based on too many pairs. That means finally you need to identify the objects in cluster 1 and cluster 2 which are closest to each other. Based for that you can do anything. So here by having by going through all these distance calculations, I found that the data point which is here and this particular data point has lesser distance compared to all others. So based on that, I can go for the next step, whether these two clusters are merged or not, like that. So this is all about that. So here you need to consider in case of Agnes, you need to consider the minimum Euclidean distance, whereas in case of Diana, you need to consider the maximum Euclidean distance. So here is a dendrogram, which is used to represent the hierarchical clustering process. Here we have a dendrogram, which is used to represent the hierarchical clustering process. So it is like a tree structure. So here, this dendrogram, it shows how objects are grouped together in, if suppose in case of agglomerative clustering, and it also shows how objects are partitioned together in case of divisive clustering. So, and it also having some similarity scale to represent the closeness among the clusters. So if you consider the level 1, in level 1 we are having individual clusters. That means it is which method in this particular dendrogram represents the agglomerative or divisive. This particular dendrogram represents which method? We have dendrograms for both agglomerative, because we need to start with the individual data objects as clusters. We have dendrograms for both agglomerative and divisive, but for this, particularly in this example, we have considered dendrogram for the agglomerative method. So initially we need to consider the individual clusters in the level 1, and in the next level we need to club the individual clusters based on their similarity. That similarity is indicated with the similarity scale. So this is a tree-like structure. So this is just a representation of the clustering process, nothing more than that. So here there are certain measures which are called as linkage measures to assess the similarity among the clusters. Briefly, I have already told you the similarity among the clusters in some cases is measured based on the distance between the mean of the clusters, or based on the average distance between the clusters, or based on the minimum distance, as I said, minimum distance between the clusters, or based on the maximum distance between the clusters. So based on these four scenarios, 4 cases, you can assess the similarity between the clusters. Here is some kind of description, you can go through it. And you can, we can have some methods in the hierarchical clusters. I will discuss that in the next class. Okay. And I'm going to stop this session. Thank you. You can leave.